Hello and welcome to Interview Friday on Lunch Therapy. I'm in my green room. Today we're going to have a special guest, and her name is Sarah Taylor. She is a spiritual healer and a comedian. There she is, holding up the world with one finger. Let's get into this thing. Interview Friday. All right, here we are. It's good to see you, Ganelle. Good to see you, Kamala. Hi. Mary Marks. I need spiritual healing. Today's the day for some spiritual healing because this has been self-improvement week, and you know, we don't talk about it too much on here, but there's some tough times going on, and I think a lot of us need some spiritual healing. Legalize equality. Yeah, I've got the Legalize Equality shirt on. Equal means equal. Equal means equal.org. Check that out. Very important work. Now we're going to take some time to do some breathing. And in through the nose, out through the toes. Get high on your own supply. Hold it. Expand those lungs. Let it out. So yeah, essentially what we're doing is we're opening up a space in our lungs, and the air just fills that space. So let's do it again. Open that space up. Allow that oxygen. I see Wolf Chip is here. Great to see you. Let it out. We're going to do some talking today about spirituality, about enlightenment, meditation, breathing, all these tools that we can use to keep ourselves sane and make ourselves superhumans. So hang in here. We're going to take one more breath. Hold it. And let it out. Hey, Goodell. That's Wolf Chip in the chat room. They talking to one another, talking to us. Make sure that you follow the channel on Twitch. Anybody that doesn't have a Twitch account, make one. Follow Joel Marshall. Let's get this lunch therapy out there. All right, without further ado, I'm going to bring on Sarah Taylor. I just want to see Jose. Got to catch my breath and put it in my pocket. Catch a falling star and put it in your pocket. Here we go. I'm going to get Sarah Taylor on right now. Sarah Taylor, here she is. So today's interview is with Sarah Taylor. Sarah and I know each other from Cal Arts many years ago, not so many years ago. She is an actor and a comedian, and she's a healer and a spiritual mentor. And I'm so glad to have you here on the show.
Phil, I'm so glad to be here. Yay.
Yay. So Sarah and I, kind of know each other. Sarah had a big impact on my life because years ago I wanted to get into comedy again, and I didn't really know how. And she invited me to her show. I think I maybe got an email from you or something like that. And I went, and after the show, I talked to you, and you said, "Oh, well, you should meet my friend Cynthia Levine."
Because she was there that night.
She happened to be there that night.
Cynthia was right there at the show. Yeah, and so I was like, well, she teaches comedy. Go see her.
Comedy, you should take her workshop. So I took her workshop, and that's really what started me doing comedy seriously.
Great.
And also Cynthia is a long-time friend of mine now.
She's amazing.
And a mentor.
Yeah.
So I thank you for that. This is my chance.
Sure. My goodness. Of course. I remember that night. You were so fun. I was just telling my husband, I was like, remember that guy Joel from Akbar like 10 years ago? And he's like, yeah, I do.
Really?
Yeah, he says hi.
Yeah, tell him I said hi too.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so I don't know that much about you. I have been following you through, I guess, Facebook and a lot of different things.
Yeah.
And seeing all the different things that you've been doing. But I wanted to find out, like, okay, where are you from? Let's just start with that.
I am from Northern California.
Uh-huh.
I was born in Mountain View, California, and I lived in Sunnyvale and Gilroy before moving to beautiful Los Angeles to go to Cal Arts.
So you moved to Los Angeles to go to Cal Arts. And
Yeah.
what was your Cal Arts experience like? And I was with you there at the time. I saw you, but I don't know. We all had different
We
experiences.
were all so busy too. It was like we all were in our own like classes. You were in the MFA program like a year ahead
Yeah,
of me. Yeah.
behind, or I don't know.
Or behind, year younger than me. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was cool. I mean, I think I arrived thinking that I was gonna, everybody was gonna be very serious and like, we were all gonna be like doing Shakespeare all the time. And I wanted kind of like a stricter experience. And what I got was like, naked people lounging at the pool and like people developing an avant-garde theater piece where I stand on a toilet screaming ranch dressing like 100 times.
Yeah. It was definitely bizarre. I mean,
it was
I
bizarre,
didn't
but
really
I'm
know what I
glad.
was getting into when I went there.
You didn't either. Wow.
I had gone there. I was living in Chicago at the time.
Yeah.
And I was working at Steppenwolf Theater, and I really decided that I wanted to get a master's degree, that somehow that would make things legitimate for me.
Make everything all better.
Right. Make everything all better. And so I crashed a bunch of auditions at a hotel in Chicago, and I hadn't
crashed?
I hadn't signed up. I remember I went into the Yale audition, and the guy was like, "Who are you?" He had one of those, voice things.
Oh,
and
no.
I was like, "I'm Joel Marshall." And he was like, "Get out." And then I kind of bumbled into the Cal Arts audition, and they were, I did my thing. They
were like, whatever, come on in.
Like,
you don't have an appointment.
Yeah,
we don't care.
They were totally groovy. And I had heard about Cal Arts because my dad is an artist, and I grew up in Seattle, and he had introduced me to a friend of his who went to Cal Arts, and I guess he just thought maybe that might be an interesting thing for me to find out about. I was in undergrad at the time, and that guy told me all these cool stories about his experience at this place called Cal Arts, but that was kind of the end of it. And then I really wasn't until I got accepted that I was like, I'm going to go.
Oh my God.
And so I went out to Los Angeles thinking, in your mind, you have an idea of what Los Angeles is like. And certainly Santa Clarita is not that idea. Right?
No.
Because Cal Arts is out in Santa Clarita in a very sort of, I don't know, like a conservative kind of.
Totally. Yeah.
Place. Did you have that? Was that shocking to you as well?
It didn't. It just felt like a small town, and I was so insular, like on the hill with the other CalArtians, that like we'd venture down to like the grocery store once a week and be around like the normal people in town and be like, oh, they're so conservative. But it was never like, oh my God, like what if it's just like, yay, I get to go back up into the little bubble on the hill.
I remember when Tim Burton made Edward Scissorhands. Apparently, the castle where Edward Scissorhands came from is supposed to be Cal Arts.
Oh, right. I think I had heard that too, because he went there.
Is like Santa Clarita. I mean, Santa Clarita has changed a lot since we've been there.
Yeah.
At the time, I was surprised because I was a vegetarian at the time, and I lived in Canyon Country.
Oh, yeah.
Canyon Country was like super.
Yay!
Yeah, like I think they, it was very conservative and not what I expected.
Oh, you were living in Canyon Country. See, I lived on campus.
Did you? Which must have been really bizarre because they have the pool that is clothing optional. And
is it still clothing optional?
I imagine it is.
In this day and age.
I don't know. It's a good question.
It's like, please, you're crossing my boundaries, but I don't want to have to look at your dick, like I can just imagine.
That, and the thing about Cal Arts is the rule was there are no rules,
Right.
Eventually I never saw this, but there was apparently a guy who went to class every day dressed as a dog and like would throw dog food at himself. Or there was.
What program was he in?
I have
probably the art department or
and then there was I remember one time there was you remember when there was a cardboard box in the main gallery?
Yes.
You could there was like a hole, you could look in there and there was all kinds of weird sexual activity going on in there. And there were prices on there, and you could get like different sexual favors by going in the box, I guess, and they were really inexpensive. And then the really expensive one was
I'm not familiar with this box.
Oh, they will read poetry to you. That was like $50 or something like that if they read poetry. But otherwise,
whoa.
Yeah, it was pretty intense.
I think there were other people piggybacking on the whole like, let's put a cardboard box in the middle of the gallery kind of thing, because I think there were a few installations that were that involved a cardboard box
But it
and
was
surprises.
it's such a cool concept to have all the arts under one roof like that. What a great
It really
idea.
was. I mean, I think with acting, there was discipline that was needed. We needed to work our voices and text analysis and speech and
Mhm.
theater history and rehearse and do all this stuff. And you know, and then we'd see like the people in the art department just sort of like, whoa, you know, like getting high and going to class. And like, I mean, all the schools felt very, because they're not called departments at CalArts, they're called schools. So we were in the theater school.
Yeah.
And so the theater school felt very different from the school of animation,
Yes.
the school of art, the school of dance.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
The school of animation, I mean,
People hardly even graduated from there because people were getting jobs like when they were sophomores. And
yeah,
as soon as you got accepted to CalArts, it was like you were on the job market.
yeah, totally.
You know?
If you were an animator at CalArts, you were guaranteed work. All those people have paid off their student loans by now.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Please call me and let's talk, because I have a few student loans. So,
yeah. So the idea also was that we would all collaborate together. But it seemed like with the theater department, we were so busy doing our thing.
We were
like
super
the idea
busy.
of collaboration. I did take a piano class.
That's cool.
It was cool. I had a tutor, and I had some knowledge of the piano. I played the piano a little bit, but this girl was on another level, man. She gave me the hardest piano piece ever.
Oh, of course.
Some kind of Chopin. I think it was called it was a nocturne.
A nocturne.
And it was sometimes there would be a measure where there'd be way too many notes in it. And somehow you were
way too many notes.
It was like Amadeus. Too many notes. And so I would try and play it, but then she would be like, no. Imagine a waterfall. That's what she kept saying.
Imagine a nice, easy, relaxed waterfall. And you're like,
so she was like some incredible piano player. I mean, she would play.
Wow.
It was incredible. But when I would play it, I couldn't think of a waterfall because I was too busy trying to jam all the notes in there.
Yeah. There's really talented people went there. My goodness.
Yeah. And what was your experience when you got out of CalArts? So where did you go after that? Yeah, let's get through the pain, because you know what? We are looking at this week. We're looking at self-improvement.
Oh,
and so a lot of us are, going through difficult times now. We need tools. We need tools. So I want to hear about, how you got to be where you are with your spiritual healing, et cetera. And I'm sure there's some pain that you went through, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, my upbringing was not the happiest. It was as like anybody getting into the arts, they're like, come from a background of some sort of challenge, turbulence, trauma. And then they're like, I'm an artist. Yes, you are. It's the perfect petri dish. Well, I graduated and I promptly became a waitress. Mm-hmm. And, everybody has to do that. But I was like, oh my God. I just kind of wasn't equipped. I had never done any kind of introspection or looking inward. I was very much a codependent person. Mm-hmm. And so my antenna was always outside of me, like, how's everybody else doing? If everybody else is okay, then I'll be okay. Mm-hmm. Because, I came from such turbulence, then you walk out into the world as an adult with those same patterns in place. So I couldn't like turn the lens back in on me and go, hey, what's going on in here? Go get some therapy, go get some trauma work done. Like, what's going on, girl? So I sort of had a real rocky time through my 20s, kind of not really feeling like I belonged in the entertainment industry. But yet, like, getting an agent and going on the auditions and, things started happening. Oh, I like a year after graduation, I was like, screw this. I'm going to move to Chicago where they appreciate theater, because I was still in my, where's the art in this?
Did you come out with a sort of like, I have a degree in theater, so I'm ready to, I'm so much better than lots of other people or whatever. I came out with a kind of a chip on my shoulder. Like I had an agent that asked me to do soap operas, and I was like, no.
You're like a soap opera. Don't you know who I am?
No, like you're gonna.
No,
pay
I
me?
don't. That's okay. Yeah, right. No, it wasn't that I thought it was better. It was just like there was like this real seriousness with which I took
Yeah.
acting and art. And every time I do it, I put it on a little bit because I was a little goofy back then, but I took it very seriously. I
Me
remember there
too.
was,
Me too.
yes, so
Yeah.
there was an act, and I won't mention her name. Like she and I laugh about it now, but she and I were like sewing some costumes or something. Because we had to, we all had to learn like some other skill in the
Yeah.
theater school. And so we were like sewing some costumes, and she was like, yeah, I have this monologue that I'm doing an acting class on Friday. And yeah, I didn't read the whole play, but, I think the monologue's going really well. And I went, you didn't read the whole play? Like,
Yeah.
I was like, you're going to a theater school. Like, and she's like, no, I mean, it's like a 2.5 minute monologue. I get the character. I'm just going to do the monologue. And I was like, like my eyeballs popped
Blasphemy.
up, my head, that emoji,
Yeah.
I was like, what kind of school is this? So I was gripping too tightly to art. And so when I graduated, I was horrified that I was auditioning for McDonald's commercials. And I was like, when do I get to do the real stuff?
Yeah.
And I was auditioning for sitcoms and stuff like that. And later on, years later, I would get into doing stand-up comedy. I would just feel drawn to it, like having a disease where you have to like move towards the medicine. But I think when I graduated from Cal-Ex, I thought I would be like a serious like regional theater actress. Like I really wasn't interested in TV and film. I wanted the art of it all, but I was like, oh, it's really expensive to move. I'll stay here. Didn't like it. So I moved to Chicago for like a year. Didn't like the weather.
Oh, the weather's
Liked everything else.
Yeah, it's a great place. The weather
I
is
mean,
tough though.
the weather is tough.
Whew.
Well,
Yeah.
and please, I was a little thin-skinned California girl. So I
Yeah.
promptly moved back to Los Angeles and started slugging away again and, booked some stuff and became SAG and started, booking some stuff, but it never really felt, I had real problems with putting myself out there and sustaining and dealing with rejection and then dealing with staying calm and grounded when I would have a success. And really what it all boils down to, because we don't have all night,
Yeah,
is
let's get
I had a lot of unhealed trauma,
Uh-huh.
and a lot of stuff that I wasn't really dealing with. I got very depressed. I was on medication for a really long time for depression and anxiety. Like I was such an anxious person.
Mhm.
And finally, at some point, friends and the boyfriend I was with were like, like, go get some therapy, go learn to meditate. Like, I was like, okay. So as I started, dealing with my shit
Yeah.
and sitting and learning meditation, I started learning Buddhism. So
Is that what you started
um,
with, learning Buddhism?
I just dove right in to Mahayana Theravada Buddhism, and then later on Vajrayana Tibetan Buddhism. But and immediately it was like, you're speaking the language, I'm coming home to myself, this feels right. And so things started looking up for me when I started meditating, being in therapy, getting proper trauma therapy, especially somatic therapy, because trauma lives in the body.
What is that exactly? Somatic
It's
therapy.
just it's working with your awareness of the body, uh, so that you can release whatever frozen holdings you have in your body. Because really what happens is we dissociate when we have trauma,
Mhm.
especially when we have trauma as a young child. We're sort of walking through the world kind of like not really in our body. So
Mhm.
it helps kind of melt those frozen places within, so you can really land in your body. And it also actually releases trauma from your nervous system, your spine. Actually, your pelvic region all holds the memory of trauma. It holds the memory of like holding and bracing,
Mhm.
either needing to flee or fighting or freezing. And so to get people rooted in their body, to be able to feel their emotions in their body, because oftentimes people will feel, let's say, sad, and immediately they go into their mind with a story about the sadness.
Mhm.
So they become mental with it. And immediately people will want to stop the sadness or create a narrative that something is wrong with them or their life because they're sad, rather than just fucking feel sad.
Mhm.
And how we can often do that is by bringing our attention to the body. So when I work with people, often as people start to get emotional, I'll tell people, like, where do you feel that emotion in your body? And what does it feel like? Is it warm? Is it cool? Does it move? Is it still? Is it, if it had a color, what would it have? This is one way of working with it, but there are many. But yeah, just getting the body on board so that we're not just with a really revved up nervous system where brain activity is just like firing all the time. Um, really getting in the body.
Were you getting into comedy at that same time, or were you into it before then, or?
I had been I had been doing comedy probably since my 20s. I mean, I kept getting cast in comedies, but doing stand up,
Stand-up comedy.
that was I like to tell people that around the same time I got into Buddhism, I got into stand-up comedy.
Mhm.
And it was like this pull towards both, like where
Do
your
you find
purpose.
that about stand-up comedy, that it is a kind of spiritual journey as well?
Well, I think everything is a spiritual journey.
Yeah. Ooh, that's
Um,
no, I
y-
believe it.
it's all, I mean, it's all that with a capital T, right?
Uh,
And it's all grist for the mill to move deeper into presence and into our true nature, and not our mental psychological self with its grippings and its ideas of the way life is supposed to be, to really sink into something more vast and true within us. I think doing stand-up comedy is a wonderful, I mean, I wouldn't tell people like, hey, go out and do stand-up comedy as your spiritual practice necessarily, unless they felt called to it.
mhm,
um, but I think there's something about being very present on stage. You have to be spontaneous, you have to be present. you
mhm,
can't you can't be in your head, you can't be mentalizing everything. You have to really be there with
mhm,
people. Um, but at the same time, it's also very mental, because you're using words and concepts and a type of communication that's very verbal and mental and intellectual. So it also can be a trap. So I come across a lot of comics who are kind of trapped in their minds and kind of trapped in their uh, ideas that they have to be full of angst and anxiety and miserable in order to do it.
mhm.
Um, so I actually find in the comedy world, people are a little more miserable than like actors. Have you found that?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah,
I used to go to
yeah.
a place called Marty's, which was a place. I don't know if you've ever been there. It was on Sunset, and it was a place. I don't think it's there anymore. But this
Yeah.
great guy, Marty, he ran it, and every single night you could go there and do comedy. You
Oh,
paid $5 and you wait and you do
it's like an
comedy.
open mic kind of
Yeah,
thing,
it was an
or
open mic, and it was like
awesome.
one of the places where I really kind of worked things out when I first started doing it.
Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, it was really depressing, and everybody was really depressed there. And most of the time, when you got up there to do your comedy, nobody was paying attention. People were standing in the back. You're just
Yeah.
kind of doing your thing. And I was like, I finally like kind of had to get out of there, because I was like, well, this is not good for my mental state.
Ah, well, that's good
So
that you have that kind of inner compass where you're like, maybe this is actually a
I
weight,
think
an
there's a
albatross
tendency
around my neck, rather than,
sometimes in comedians to think that that's just part of being a comedian, is that you have to be depressed all the time.
yes,
And I think that
yes.
it actually, like you said, it fuels it. But there are also actors like that too, that think they have to have all this drama in their life in order to be able to present drama on the stage or on
Yeah,
film or
it's an
television.
illusion. It's we're all buying into some sort of illusion about, how
Sort of
how
mythology.
how things are,
Yeah.
and that's what I loved about Buddhism, because it was about, it is about peeling away the layers to get at true nature, your true nature, and the true nature of reality.
But I
And
think that that's true about being an actor or being a comedian as well, is that the more you get to who you actually are and peel away these layers, the more interesting it is.
yeah, I mean, then you're a clearer vessel,
Mhm.
a container, or a, channel for emotions, for, stories, for, if I'm on stage and I'm, ranting about something as a comedian, I'm not really angry. I may have had a moment of, whoa, when I wrote it, but, I'm a channel for it.
Yeah.
I'm a channel for human emotions and stories,
So
and
you help other people with their own you know,
Their own
spiritual
crap.
journey or their own crap. That's a good way to put it. Their own crap. What are the techniques that you use now to do that? I mean, I know I've heard that you do Reiki. I don't even know what Reiki is. Maybe you can
Yeah,
explain it to
yeah.
me. But there's, different things that you do to help people with their crap.
Well, I'm an artist and a mystic.
Mhm.
I think they're kind of one and the same. So, mystics are usually kind of tuned into like other dimensions than just this one, because there's so much more to us and to the world
Mhm.
than what we see. Um, so, I do a number of things. I teach very kind of basic meditation, like mindfulness-based meditation to companies
Mhm.
and to kind of the average person who just wants to sleep better at night. And that was my thing, is I just wanted to like have less anxiety and sleep better at night. And I got way more than I asked for. Um, so really what I enjoy doing is working with people, not that I don't enjoy, teaching meditation at companies, but I work one-on-one and in groups with people who want to realize their true nature, as the Buddha called it, and see through the bullshit of their mind and 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 connect with that deep core of stillness and spaciousness and silence within, so that they can be a channel for this human life. And along the way, people really need to heal their crap. So it's, what's standing in the way of realizing your true nature, or what's obscuring your spirit or your true nature or your true essence from shining. Well, it's often trauma, it's conditioning, it's collective conditioning that we absorb. Like, this is the way the life is, this is what women are like, this is what men are like, this is what, all the conditioning that we accumulate, along with the various ideas that we have about ourselves. The Buddha was all about, discovering that you're not who you think you are.
Well, one of the things that really got me a while back, I started kind of really looking at um, figuring out my crap like a few years ago. I
Yeah,
was just in a bad place, and I just didn't think people were seeing me the way I saw myself.
yeah.
And I was just like, it's like I got off the path somehow. I just
Uh-huh.
looked down. I was like, where the heck am I? And one of the things that really rang true to me was this idea that I'm not my thoughts.
Yeah,
That like blew my
there you
mind,
go.
you
Hmm.
know?
That's
So
the
what do
start.
you think? There's like the watcher, which is I guess it's you essentially, and you're watching your thoughts. Is there a separation between you and your thoughts, or how do you look at the actual core that you were saying, which is you? What is that exactly to you?
Well, we can intellectually understand, these spiritual
Mm-hmm.
teachings, right? These deeper spiritual teachings that you're talking about. And then we can have realizations and direct experiences of it. So I teach from my experience. I'm not a real textbook, but um, how I have experienced is, there was a phase where I became the witness, where this mental image of myself dissolved, and what was left was just me as awareness,
Mm-hmm.
knowing myself as awareness. And that was kind of a long phase of feeling like the witness to thoughts, the witness. But that also has separation there, because ultimately you want to move toward unity consciousness and even beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
And unity consciousness is when there's the boundaries between inside and outside and you and me dissolve.
Mm-hmm.
And so you still know yourself as awareness, but you also know yourself as everything too.
Well, that's the thing. Okay, so
Yeah,
people talk about a oneness and how an enlightened person perhaps might be a person who sees beyond their own ego and their own sense of self to a higher plane where we are all connected and we are all the same. We are all one. Is this what you're talking about?
and so what you're describing sounds like a transcendent experience.
Mm-hmm.
So seeing beyond, right, who we think we are and seeing beyond the mind. But when that has been realized, that's just that's your locus of perception.
Have you ever experienced that in your life where you see beyond yourself and see to a oneness or a unity in the, I don't know what you would even call it, the world, I guess, the
Yeah,
world? You
yeah.
have.
Yeah.
And was it a momentary thing, or did you suddenly, once you crossed that threshold, your whole life view changed and permanently? Like
Well,
Eckhart Tolle, you know how Eckhart Tolle, like was sitting on a bench, had some kind of mental breakdown, and all of a sudden his world changed permanently.
yeah. So, yeah, if you were to do a deep dive on my website and stuff, you'd find that, yes. And I was like, oh, great, we're not going to talk about this. We're going to talk about comedy. But yes. So I had many moments of transcending the self,
Mm-hmm.
transcending the ego. And then in stages, I had what could be called realizations that have been abiding and permanent, which doesn't mean that somebody is finished,
Yeah.
because often when somebody has a very profound awakening, like Eckhart Tolle,
Uh-huh.
he's not talking about what happened after he had that night in his room where he said, I can't stand myself anymore.
Yeah.
And another part of him said, well, are there two of you? Who's the
Right.
you can't stand
Right.
or
Exactly.
can't live with anymore?
That's exactly.
And it just went,
yeah.
And so when that happens, the me collapses in on itself as an actual direct experience. And when there is no filter of the self, then we can actually perceive that we are connected, that we are everything, that there is a substanceless substance, I guess you could say, that is the fabric of all of existence, and that it includes us. We're not separate from it. And so that's what I help people with. So I help people, I'm kind of an awakening guide for people who've had some sort of, glimpse of that.
Yeah.
And are on the path or have had a profound realization. But, just because somebody has realized that and it is, has radically changed them, there's cleanup work that needs to be done, because then all your conditioning comes to the surface. So years ago, about 10 years, a little over 10 years ago, there was that initial seeing through of the self. There were other, steps that followed after that. But so much stuff came forward after that first awakening, that first realization. Because now you're just you've realized yourself to be something so vast that all your junk just bubbles up and is like, okay, now you get to deal with me,
Oh, really? I thought maybe
Yeah.
all that stuff would fall away.
No, there are a lot of
we're all
myths.
oneness, so I don't have
Right. No,
Yeah.
there are a lot of myths about awakening and about the stages of awakening, but yeah, it's, you do cleanup work, So a lot of the healing work I do is I work with people who have been having at least deep experiences on the path, or they actually want that, and so it's my job to continually direct them towards their true nature. And there's your true nature, and then there's also the crap that obscures it.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel, and how I work is I work with both, continually pointing and guiding and holding a space
Mm-hmm.
for people to fall deeper into their true nature, while also holding a space for people to sort of sort through and heal, what tends to obscure it and what arises that has been, really chunky for them.
Do you have anxiety, or do you ever have anxiety?
Not anymore. Yeah, that went away.
Did you have anxiety before? Pretty heavy anxiety?
Dude, like as I said, like I was medicated for 10 years. I had depression.
And that was because you had depression, anxiety, and
depression, anxiety,
and all that stuff.
Yeah, so much trauma, so much unhealed trauma. And so I got off, antidepressants and stuff when I started meditating, and I still had anxiety. I just wasn't medicated.
Yeah,
And
what would you say to people that maybe are having anxiety, especially like now?
Yeah.
What is a good first step?
Gotcha. Well, I always like to remind people that the mind is not a reliable narrator. You just stop believing everything your mind tells you, and get in your body and feel what you're actually feeling. Because when I used to have such debilitating anxiety, and when I stopped trying to control it or get rid of it or or indulging these narratives, these storylines about what I was experiencing. I'm going to feel like this forever. It's never going to go away. Oh my God, this means my life is horrible. Oh my God, whatever the narratives are, right? The more I could just let it, let beating heart be, let hot, heat rushing up, let it just be. Racing thoughts. Okay, racing thoughts, racing thoughts. And to be with it, a bit of what you were saying about being the witness to it, not in a disembodied way, but everything that arises, all the sensations, all the stories, to just to be the space that holds for all of it to be there. And this was early in my path when I found that I stopped fighting my anxiety attacks so much. Just, okay, they're just sensations. And I would just let them roll through like waves. And I would do a type of breathing exercise, which I teach to people. Which really, I saw something that you did where you were like, "Hey, everybody, I'm Joel. Breathe in, hold,
I do it every show.
slowly exhale."
Yeah.
So when we're breathing in, especially into the belly, and we're holding. And then if you can keep your belly still kind of fat as you slowly exhale, and that's the key, to just slowly exhale, you stimulate the vagal cranial nerve, and it hacks into your nervous system. What? And you can calm down more. But, I think it's really important that, if you're having anxiety, to have faith that whatever you're experiencing is going to pass. And to be the space in which everything can just arise, be loving towards whatever arises,
I think that's probably the same with emotions too, right? I mean, like,
same with emotions.
Like sad, maybe you should let's just see what sad is like. Guys, sometimes I think there's sad shaming, where people are like, "Oh, I can't be sad. Why are you sad? Come on, be happy." But maybe you just need to kind of go through that.
It's a really good point. If you just look at sadness, and then don't layer some cognitive thing on top of it.
Judgment on it or something.
Yeah, it's just pure sadness. I found out somebody that I'm close with died today. Oh. And I immediately just felt the sadness and moved through it. And the person I was talking with was like, "Are you okay? Do you need to reschedule our call? I was like, "No, I'm okay." Cause I know how to hold a space for my sadness.
And sometimes, you want to be sad. Like, you listen to sad songs, or you see sad movies, and you have emotions about them, and you don't necessarily say, "Oh, that really sucked." Like, sometimes it's okay.
Right, because there's no story about it. You're allowing yourself to feel your emotions. Yeah. And how wonderful that we get to feel emotions,
That's
they don't have to have the story.
About going to a movie theater and seeing a movie with a group of people is that we're all having this experience together. It's pretty cool.
That's right.
Think about it. All right. Well, I think we better cut it off, but this is,
I know we've been talking a while.
Super interesting. And this is a great way to end our week here on self-improvement. Our next week is paranormal week.
Oh, cool.
So if you have any paranormal stories that you want to tell.
Well, I have worked as a psychic and a medium. So who knows? I might have to hop on.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much, Sarah Taylor, for being on the show.
Thank you.
This was super enlightening and beautiful. So thanks.
So good to see all of you who I'm not seeing, but I can imagine. Bye, Jill. Thanks.
Sarah, one thing, thanks for the interview and everything, but I just wondered, do you have a pencil that I could borrow? Just a regular number 2 pencil. Oh, thanks. Appreciate it. Wow. That was really going to come in handy.
I know.
All right.
You're welcome.
See you later.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye. Okay. There we go. That was sort of a paranormal experience at the end there. That was super paranormal. Yeah, that was a great guest. I mean, having her on the show was such a gift. And it really, a lot of the things that we talked about during the week came out in that conversation about, being present, and the idea of your mind, you not being your thoughts and all that stuff. So this will be good because now we're ready to move into paranormal week, where we're going to start experiencing some things that maybe we don't understand. Maybe we have no idea. So paranormal week is coming. I invite you to send in your stories or video yourself telling a story about some paranormal thing. I know there's a story that Scott Amy tells about a haunted house that I would love to hear, and I'm going to have to get him to come on here and tell that, I think. But until then, we're going to end the show with one of my favorite performers. We've seen him on here before playing a shovel. I'm going to play a clip from something here that is very dear to me. I'm a big fan of Stevie Ray Vaughan, and he had this song called Lenny. And when I used to study in college, I didn't want to have music on that had words in it, because it kind of, you think about the words and stuff. So I would just play this song called Lenny, which was a Stevie Ray Vaughan song. And here's Justin Johnson, one of my favorite guitar players. He has a website, justinjohnsonlive.com, and also the YouTube channel, Justin Johnson. And one more thing, if you want to learn more about Sarah Taylor, comedian, spiritual guide, actor, go to sarahtaylor.org. And that's Sarah, S-A-R-A-H, Taylor.org. Anyway, let's move in. Let's listen to Justin Johnson for a little while and have a little dance break. This guy's a virtuoso on the guitar. He often tries out guitars on his show. You see there's a tag still on the guitar. Sometimes he does, but his playing is just seems so effortless. He's also a guitar teacher, this guy. That would be cool, wouldn't it? All right. See you next week for Paranormal Week.